My name is Marlene Cicaglia. I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley Heights, New Providence, and Summit. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support any candidate. We encourage informed and active participation in government and work to increase understanding of major public policy issues. We influence public policy through education and advocacy. Our membership is open to both men and women, and application forms can be downloaded at lwv-vhnps.org. The program this evening is being taped by GLTV 34 and will be broadcast on Mondays at 8 p.m., Wednesdays at 2:30 p.m., and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. on GLTV 34 as well as FiOS 47. As a courtesy to our participants, please turn off your cell phone and any other electronic devices now. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Terry Thompson. She's from Somerset County, and she sits on the League of Women Voters of New Jersey State Board.
Thank you. The procedure is going to be as follows. Each of the candidates will each have a 2-minute opening statement. We will then proceed with a list of questions that have been prepared by the League, and then we will turn to you for questions, and when it gets to be your turn, if you have a question, we're not going to worry about standing in line on the microphone. Just raise your hand and I'll call on you, okay? And I'll try to get to everybody. And then we will have closing statements. And the gentleman drew lots a few minutes ago for the order in which they would start, and then they will rotate, so sort of somebody else is first each time. And so for the opening statement, may I first present Manuel Puto.
Hello. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Communications Committee for tonight's debate. I'm Manuel Puto, and along with Peter Barboso, we're excited to be running for town council. We believe in working with all of you to keep Berkeley Heights the great town it is, now and in the future. My wife, Marie, and I have lived here 18 years, raised our 3 children here, and have been part of our terrific community. I've been involved in our town for over the years, but I want to do more. And now is the time just to do that. I'm committed to Berkeley Heights, and I'm not going anywhere else. We love this town and are determined to keep it the special place that it is. That vision, smart development, that takes vision, smart development, an outstanding school system, and affordability for all residents. As a New Jersey realtor for over 30 years, I know the critical factors that affect our property values. Probably the single biggest asset each of us have. Good, positive development is important to a community, and it takes town council members willing to do the research and hard work, and to make sure the policies and procedures are in compliance with the law. This while doing everything possible to protect our residents and maintain the small town feel we all love. We need to be sure we have sound budgets that provide funding to keep our residents safe and provide the services they need. The saying talk is cheap is not what we need. We need representatives that not only show up at meetings but actually do the work by showing up prepared, by rolling up their sleeves and making hard, balanced, and reasonable decisions to keep this town moving forward. This all takes planning and doing our homework. It takes listening and compromise. It takes new streams of revenue. It takes working together. We look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Okay, second, Peter Barboso.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women's Voters, Township Communications Committee, and GL for their work in putting the debate together tonight. And congrats to the baseball team on a big win yesterday, and Coach Ruth. It was awesome. My name is Peter Barboso, and I'm running with Manuel Puto for the June 7th Republican Party for Town Council. I'll tell you a little story. About 7 years ago, my wife, Janine, and I were looking for a new place to call home. After, grow some roots with our 2 children after living in Hoboken. We started with 3 very small things. Great schools, New Jersey Transit, and some great places to eat. Well, after an awesome lunch at Trap Rock and having a little truffle pizza at DeMayo's, we were good. We wanted a place that was safe, vibrant, and offered a small town feel with traditional family values. We found it in Berkeley Heights. And we first felt it through the heart and soul of what this town is truly all about. It's people. The people who would become our neighbors, whose children welcomed us day one with warm brownies. The people who would pull together during Sandy, making gas runs, sharing extension cords, food, power. I quickly realized, however, that maintaining what was important to all of us meant jumping in, getting involved, and working together to protect our town from negative development. When a large facility was proposed that would adversely affect not just the neighborhood, but the safety of its residents, I welcomed the opportunity to help. As an executive at a communications agency in New York City, I knew the message had to get out there in terms of what was truly happening. Information can often get lost in hearsay, and being able to clearly communicate that information can help people better understand what's going on in their town. Together, we clearly shared that message with town officials, the broader community, and the facility was ultimately moved to a perfect location. This involvement taught me that the residents in our town working together can do powerful things. We're excited to work with our mayor, fellow council members, but most important, Manny and I are energized by you, our community. And Manny and I look forward to your questions, welcome your thoughts, input, and truly having open conversations moving forward. Thank you very much, and thanks for being here tonight.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters and everyone else involved in putting this together. I'm Ed D'Elia, lifelong resident of Berkeley Heights, looking for re-election on the town council. I've attended council meetings for 4 years prior to my election to the council. I've been on the council 6 years, which is 2 terms. I've been 6 years on the Environmental Commission. I've served 8 years on the Republican Municipal Committee, 15 years on the Berkeley Heights Volunteer Fire Department. I've lived 55 years, which is all my life, in Berkeley Heights. My family has lived here over 120 years, and I am the 4th generation to live in Berkeley Heights. I've kept an open mind on all issues. I've always researched both sides of an issue before voting. I am elected by the residents and work for the residents, not my fellow council members or the Republican Municipal Committee. I am not accepting campaign contributions and do not owe anyone anything. I am my own man. I vote on principle and what is best for the residents in this town. If you want another yes vote, then I'll vote for me. I'm not a sheep. I do take this position on the town council very seriously. I question many items that we vote on. I'm running again for town council, but many residents have told me not to leave because I'm the only one they can count on to do the right thing, and I'm a voice for the people. I feel I am making a positive contribution to the town of Berkeley Heights, which I love. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to the prepared questions. Each panelist will, each candidate will have a minute and a half to answer. If you feel that there's, if you feel that there's a major need to rebut something somebody else has said, hold your hand up. I'll recognize you for that, but you'll only have 30 seconds at the most. And you know, don't do it as an knee-jerk thing, as a, you know, just because if you have a chance, okay? All right, first question, and Peter Bobasso is going to answer this one first. Development. The mayor and council have put forward plans for the new municipal complex. Do you support these plans, or would you recommend any modifications?
I actually, I'm glad you started with that. Thank you very much.
I didn't do the order.
Well, no, it's a great question. And obviously something that's a big subject in town right now. When I looked at the plans, and I know there's been a few different ones developed, I was actually very excited about what was happening down in terms of the municipal area. A lot of the plans in terms of where the current facility is, even speaking to the chief of police recently, was the idea of, imagine we had to move out and actually wait, transfer for a while. The idea that it would be happening in parallel, I think is a very smart approach to what they're doing down there. And the layout overall, in terms of what I've seen in terms of the architecture and the planning, is actually outstanding. So I'm actually very much in favor of the approach and what it looks like. It looks like it's going to be, to me, in some capacity, like proper Berkeley Heights. A nice hub in terms of when you arrive on the train, come into town. It'll be the center, in terms of the library being down there and everything else. It looks fantastic. I was excited to see the original drawings on this. And it'll be very exciting to see it come to fruition for the next couple of years. I think it'll make the town really feel, special. It creates an important area downtown. So really excited personally to see it get started.
Okay, thank you. Angelina?
Yes, when this was first proposed at the town, I thought it was a great idea, but I was also questioning people on it, not sure what was the best thing for the town and what was going to be the most economical. And I kept an open mind throughout the whole process, and nobody else seemed to want to care that there might be other options. And finally, one time I sat down with Jim Ramathor, the architect, and we went over the possibility of putting it down behind the town hall, which I felt was a much more favorable place for our downtown. I didn't feel that the town hall should be in the middle of the town where there's no downtown, there's nothing else other than our fire department. So that's where it ended up, and I feel it's a much better place for it. I do still feel there's other options. One of my options was leaving the library where it is, putting a small addition on it or a large addition, and making it more comfortable and more room for expansion on the new building, and this would probably save us many $1 million. And I still think that would be a possibility that should be looked at.
The new municipal complex. I believe the new complex is a result of a well thought out process between the council, citizens, and city departments and professionals that have been hired to review the plans. It offers a vibrant center for the library and community use as well as energy efficient office space. The police department will no longer be held in an open trailer on the side. We have an extra 84 parking spaces coming in. And by fixing a brand new office complex, it becomes more attractive to other people that want to move into the community. I'm for it. I think the cost can be, is it being controlled as best as can right now by the present council, and I'm happy to say it was really good.
Question 2. Affordable housing. The township is currently in litigation regarding its obligations for affordable housing. Are you satisfied with the council's handling of this matter, or do you favor a change in the township's current position? And we'll start this with Berkeley.
First of all, I believe putting that housing in King's property is very harmful to the town. The downtown should be for businesses, not residential. The bigger our town is, the more businesses it has, the better it will be. Housing will not make the downtown better. It will not do anything, it will just cause more traffic without the benefit of businesses. And I've always felt we should be fighting, and not just us, I mean everyone in the state, because what was put forward with this affordable housing is physically impossible to do. The state cannot handle the infrastructure of the state, cannot handle the amount of housing that's needed, let alone if you, basically, it would double, what they proposed would almost double the population of the state. Because most of the towns would become, not all of them would double, but many. And the roads can't handle it, the schools can't handle it, and nobody's looking into that. The environment can't handle it, the flooding would only be increased. These things should be considered before things are overbuilt, let alone are there enough people that need that much housing in this state. It will not benefit the state to put so much housing in.
Well, affordable housing, it's part of a Mountain Rule decision that was determined by the New Jersey Supreme Court in 1975. And under New Jersey Supreme Court ruled that under the New Jersey Constitution, people have a right to housing close to where they work. In 2015, after several legal battles, the New Jersey courts took over their affordable housing. We have to comply with what the New Jersey courts are stating. New Jersey courts originally came in at 800 and some odd housing, now they're down to 598. We believe it's 218. The numbers are here. We're trying to negotiate with the towns. We're trying to negotiate with the state. We're trying to negotiate with the builders. We're trying to negotiate with the people involved with the process. By putting our heads in the sand and saying we're not going to negotiate, I disagree with it. It's the wrong place to negotiate. It's mandated by the state. It's ordered by the Supreme Court. We have to follow the rules. I think the town council is doing a great job working with EcoServe, trying to keep the numbers low and keep housing affordable for the area. Thank you.
Yeah, this is an interesting issue, and to echo that in some capacity, again, I've heard people in town, I mentioned in my opening comments, hearsay, and the fact that these things float around, and people talking about affordable housing. We don't want affordable housing. And Ed's position is great. I mean, everybody has an opinion about what they think would be great, but this is based on the determination of the New Jersey Supreme Court more than 40 years ago. It's a Mount Laurel decision. This isn't something that the town council says, you know what, I don't think we're going to actually do that. As a matter of fact, when you make public statements such as that, in terms of the fact that I'm not for it, I'm not going to go for it, you actually are creating more of an issue. If you're really trying not to change anything, it's actually going to roll over you. The change is coming. It's really how you actually manage that change. Every municipality is obligated to provide its share of housing units through the Fair Housing Act. It's not a decision in terms of the council. It's not something you sit back and say, I'm voting no because I'm rogue, I'm voting no because I want to be the only guy who's not saying yes. It's not a decision that you have in that perspective. Our responsibility is to best manage the mandate for the good of the town, but we cannot just put our head in the sand and just say, you know what, I'm against this for whatever reason, I don't want to change it. It's not the way it works. Their number currently, if you just want to think about it, is 858. Our number has been 218. This is called negotiating. As a matter of fact, they've moved on that number since, and it's more like 550 something at this point. And you wonder, if they were wrong on 858, maybe they're wrong on 550 something as well. The point is, you're negotiating, you're finding compromise. It can't be zero, okay? You have to actually find some capacity of doing it. So in the end, I'm going to stop. It's an interesting issue, so
Thank you. Maybe after this session is over, we can all talk about this. I'm on the planning group and the same issue. Every town. Every town, yeah. Okay, downtown beautification. And Mr. Buckman will start you. What additional steps should the township consider to improve the appearance of our downtown? So there's no room to leave alone.
Well, Berkeley Heights is working hard, and that was the last council meeting. His article, Title 19 of the Land Use Act, was just been rewritten to create a more uniform appearance along Springfield Avenue and along the business corridor. And that includes street lights, sidewalk, curbing, facade, building usage. There's certain things that we're putting in place, the Township Council is putting in place for the future, and not just for our generation, but for a generation of our children that remain here in town. I think it's good what they're doing right now in trying to create a uniform guideline, and that's about it. Oh, by the way, one more thing before I still have 30 seconds. They also, I know they were working on a Safe Schools program, which includes walkways that along the back roads that are not being maintained. And I know they're working very hard to keep that going for the kids, so the kids can walk to school.
All right.
Yeah, I think Article 19, as Maddie was discussing, is interesting in terms of unification in terms of look. It's a little bit, let's be honest. I mean, we all love the town, but if you walk down the downtown, it's a little hodgepodgey, as I often describe it. This idea of trying to specify a little bit more. There weren't a lot of specifications. I mean, if the detail was to a developer, it has to look great. Well, how do you define great? So you try and create some specifications around this in terms of color. If you think of a good example, I was driving over by Fanwood today. Just something, you see a similarity in terms of the business. You want to talk about vibrant downtown? We think of even New Providence in terms of the looks of places. Bart's, if anybody knows Bart's. It's simple. It's not over the top. It's an awning with some loose lights. But at the same time, there's a certain quality level to it. And I think, again, in terms of our downtown, and everyone's always talking about how Berkeley Heights residents should really continue to use the businesses downtown. But it's not just that. It's attracting people from outside in to use these businesses downtown, creating that an ability to sort of walk through this downtown. So these specific design specs, I think over time will allow us to create a more unified look downtown and ultimately give us a core, which I think we'll all be extremely proud of. So I'm very in favor of what's happening down there. I think we have to continue to move in that direction.
Yes. Article 19 was proposed or voted on for the first time to change the ordinance this past week, and I had problems with it. Partly, it's a very long, drawn-out thing. It should have been discussed over several meetings before it was proposed, before it was voted on. And The Chamber of Commerce should have been notified of this and talk to them. Business owners should have been discussed this with, because the businesses need to survive in this town for the downtown to be a working downtown. And I don't think anyone ever talked to the businesses or the chamber. Well, I know they didn't talk to the Chamber of Commerce. That's important. You want the businesses to be able to come here, and that's an important part. There's so many things that I don't think are acceptable. The main one is parking in the rear of buildings. If you look at all the buildings that have been put in over the last 20 years with the parking in the rear, they do not attract business. That's the number one thing, is you want to attract businesses. Then there are many other issues, but since I only have 30 seconds left, I really can't discuss them. But there's a lot that can be done to make businesses want to come to this town. And I've been in this town my whole life. I know what works and what doesn't work. And there's more we can do, but we're not addressing it. Thank you.
I think that's an interesting thing you just actually said. That you want to attract more businesses, but at the same time, you don't want them to look better, to attract people to come to them. So, I mean, there's some aspect, that's the idea, is to create a downtown that has a certain look that's attractive, as in attracts people to it in some capacity. And the fact that you've been here your whole life, maybe you've actually just gotten completely used to the way it looks, and you're perfectly fine.
I think this is that's a little too personal.
Okay, so
Shouldn't be aimed at
Okay.
the other candidate.
it's aimed at the comments, nonetheless, okay. So if you want to attract business downtown, you create a vibrant downtown business area that has to do with the way it looks. So in terms of the fact that a business owner would not want his property to look better and be more attractive to others, that's not a clear idea that you're saying. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. And
Are we allowing a sort of rebuttal? Okay.
What I'm saying is you have to make business more attractable. Making it pretty is not going to make a business survive. There's many things involved in keeping a business that can survive. One of the simple things is you have to make the permitting process more simpler, not more difficult. Businesses might not be coming to town, or probably aren't coming to town, and I've heard this directly from people, because it's a nightmare to get a permit in this town. There are so many things that are harming the businesses, not helping. You have to get them to come here first. Then you have to make sure that they can survive.
Okay.
It's a hard town it's hard to run a business anywhere.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You've been on the council for 6 years. What steps have you done to bring businesses into town?
No, come on. These
All
are
right,
personal.
I apologize.
Let's keep it clear. And we're going into another favorite subject for municipal candidates, one everybody loves to answer. Budget. Okay, we're going to start this with Peter. What would your priorities be with respect to the municipal budget? Are there any items you would like to see included that are presently not being funded or are underfunded? Or are there items that could be reduced or eliminated?
Well, one thing in terms, I think, we need to, in general, regarding the budget as well, is continue to look for grant money as we can. Every town is always looking for additional dollars, and I think that we've done a good job in terms of working on some of these grants. I think it's something that we should continue to keep our eye on. For the most part, we have to continue to support, obviously, fire department, police, DPW, rescue squad, things along those lines. I think they're very important for us to continue to make sure that they are supported correctly, and these are the crux of our community in a lot of ways. The budget discussions at the end of the day, I think, as well. I favor in terms of continuing to look downtown, as far as I think that's an important aspect, regardless of what was just discussed. I think you're actually looking to attract more business downtown. I think you do that by creating a more vibrant space for people, creating more customers, and that's how you actually businesses will survive. I agree with you. They're not going to survive by being beautiful. They're going to survive in some capacity by people being attracted to them, the customers. So I think along those lines, in terms of operating the capital budget, keeping these interest payments stable, continuing to manage this 2% each year on the operating budget are crucial aspects. It's difficult, but it's something that I think the town continues to keep an eye on.
The council has been doing a good job with the budget since we've done. because but it helps to have a full-time CFO. He's been doing most of it. I wish I had been informed of it this year, that the council wasn't going to be doing as much. I did not know until it was too late, but the budget, I believe we have a 1.7 increase on the things that were in cap, which was less than the 2%. And the thing I had a problem with was, well, other years and this year, was the capital plan, which I feel to be seriously addressed, and it became a want list, not a needs list. And the amount of money that is put in there that's not used, I feel is very wasteful, and I don't think it should be. We should be more careful of what we allow in the capital plan. Thank you.
Can I read that?
Well, no, Rico asked the question first.
I did look at the recent budget, and between $13 and $14 million does go for city expenses as an operating budget, and it is within the cap. And that's due to council's diligent hard work of keeping the numbers low. And what was amazing about looking at the budget was the amount of funding that we received from grant monies. It was over $306,000 that went for grants, over $187,000 went for the fire department. As of this year, so far, there's another $145,000 of grant money has been allocated already and received. There's another $25,000 should be coming very shortly that I was talking to town to find out about. And there's even more money that towns are aggressively going after for budget for road improvements and infrastructure. I'm very happy that when I see that happen, because it means your taxes are not being raised. That means the town's going after county money that's out there. They're going after federal money that's out there. They're going after private funding that's out there. And that includes things that were done, including Memorial Park. That was all done with private funds, and it's still being done with private funds. And I'd like to acknowledge the people who are working on that. That's it.
I agree with you, Ed. I think that the CFO and the town administrator, in terms of that process, as far as control of the budget, is a positive thing. I'm trying to clarify though, when you say something, how did you not know that that was going to be the system that the CFO would be doing the budget? That's what I'm going to answer. Sure.
Because on January 1st, when the budget dates were listed in the meeting agenda, there was 2 meeting dates. And I said, I hope there's going to be more. And they said, yes, there is. And that's the last I ever heard of anything other than the first day we had our budget meeting. And then I thought the next one there was going to be others. And there never was. Nobody told me anything.
Did anybody else on the council not know?
Everybody I knew.
Just you.
Nobody told me.
Okay, changing subject partially. Seniors. And Ed, you start this. Additional housing for senior citizens is planned. What additional services do you feel need to be addressed for this increase?
I don't know what additional services. I mean, first of all, the seniors are the backbone of this town. I've always felt that way. Anytime a senior citizen stays in his house forever, that's one less or another set of children not going to our school, which is actually saving our township a huge amount of money. Basically $15,000 per year per child for 12 years per kid. So the longer seniors stay in their houses, we are going to benefit. So I want a town that can afford to keep our seniors, if the taxes stay reasonable, they will stay there forever. That's always been my goal, and I feel that seniors should be treated well. They have senior buses, and we pay for some of their trips, and I feel anything we can do to keep them here is a plus. Thank you.
Angela?
Well, I'm all for seniors. I hope to reach that age myself one day. I think the town's doing a great job right now with seniors, from the bus service they're offering, as well as what's happening down on Locust Avenue. It's a 55-plus community coming in. That's going to bring in 189 units of housing for seniors, which will anchor that part of town. Bringing something like that into the town, I think, is very important, not just as a realtor, but as someone who lives here in town, because that allows people a choice of staying in town. There's a lot of seniors that may have a house that's too big. Now, the downside, they might just want 1 bedroom, they might want 2 bedrooms. That's going to be available to them there. Rather than going to surrounding towns, they can stay here in Berkeley Heights. So as for senior services, I hope to meet with the seniors at the end of the year and speak more with them, end of this month, and speak with them, and find out their wants, needs, and desires also. I believe in open dialogue, and that's why I'm here.
From one of the things that I understand that they wanted was actually this senior community, which is great, because they're this 55 and over development. As Manny said, around 189 units. And keep in mind, you also get 15% of that towards that obligation for affordable housing, which is a positive thing. This is a very positive aspect of the community. You're able to keep people, and I agree, staying here, allowing people to stay here is positive. One of the special aspects of this town is the fact that we have people who have been here their entire lives. We have people who have been here for 5 years. You know, that collective voice in a lot of ways is special. And this idea of actually allowing people to stay in a community like that is fantastic. So there's no reason why I can't understand being against something like that when you know, we have bus service that can allow people to move through town with this. This 55 and older development is the type of development we should be looking at, even increasing other areas to do this. It allows people to stay in. When they're in their home and it's too big and people have left, but they want to stay in the town, there aren't a lot of options. I think this is a great option for them. It has no impact on the school system, which, by the way, studies are showing that there's room coming. It's not as if like there's no room. So the fact that a senior community has no impact on the schools allows you to go towards your obligation of affordable housing. I think this is a very positive thing.
Okay. Parks and Recreation. Are there any improvements that you feel could be made to the recreation programs or the facilities used for those programs? And if there's, you know, no, I'm not going to say it. Ben.
First off, I can't imagine anyone being against any park or recreation facility in town. As someone who had their children go through the baseball teams and the football teams and everything else, I'm very much for it. And I know with the Safe Initiatives program that's being looked at by the town council right now, that'll help fix up roads, fix up fields, and fix up safe pathways for the children to go to school and go to not work, go to school and go to play. If you go down to the field on Saturday or Sunday, you'll see full of kids playing. And that comes from Snyder Field right across the board to the smaller fields that are up here in Columbia. And I'm very much for what's happening right now.
Here.
Well, as a baseball dad, I have to say I have been jealous at times moving around tougher towns and seeing baseball fields. But it's great to see that what happened down with Horseshoe and Sandstone. So there are things that are being done. You know, we're very much in favor of that type of thing. Again, it's always a balance. And the other aspect, as Manny has brought up, is this safe routes aspect in terms of there's beautiful trails and things in this town, and that's one of the beauties as well in terms of the balance of trying to look at creating a better downtown, but at the same time being surrounded by the woods and the outdoor aspects of this town. I think it's fantastic. So I'm always for a better baseball field. You know, definitely jealous of Baskin Ridge in terms of Ridge Fields over there.
Who isn't?
But nonetheless, it was really great. It was a very positive development to see what happened down over by Horseshoe and Sandstone. So that type of progress, people being interested in that. You know, my son may be moving on at 13 a little bit more, but I see all these young kids playing, and it's great. I think it's really awesome to have better field.
First of all, I think Tom Barton does an excellent job. And one of the things I like most is he rarely begs for money, or almost never begs for money. He's always happy and works with what we give him. And for other parks, Vito Mondelli, I think that most people know, donated his property to become another park in town, which will cost the township absolutely nothing. That's one more park that we will have. The Memorial Park, the Memorial Committee is rebuilding that park with no tax dollars from our township. It's such a phenomenal job, and it will be gorgeous in time for the Memorial Parade. And as Peter said about the trails, as from the Environmental Commission, we have been working to extend the trail that goes along the Passaic River. It starts at Lawrence Drive and it goes to Snyder Avenue. We're working to extend it because eventually it should go from the edge of by Gillette, by Berkeley Plaza, all the way to Summit. Someday, that's the goal. And the more we get done, the more it will get used and the more people will enjoy it. It's not the best river, but it's a nice river. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm laughing because we're by town, we're trying to establish trails, and unfortunately, so much of the town is like this, that they're very difficult to imagine anybody with mouse goats climbing. Okay, shared services. What possibilities do you see for additional shared services with other government?
Shared service is always good if we can, I think you need to evaluate these and make sure that at the end of the day that they do work for the needs of the town. There's a few examples currently, I believe, in terms of some of the IT work that's being done and shared with Madison. Of course, with Providence, obviously, we want to have shared services such as police and fire, etc. I think we'd be open for looking at that again if it works for the town in terms of shared services. It's a great idea when it does work, but it has to fit correctly. So, quite honestly, I think it's one of those things you continue to explore. You continue to take a look at what works for the town and try and find if there's places that you can fit it in. That's sort of where I am right now with shared services.
Shared services are always a good thing to look into, but like you just said, you have to be careful. One of the biggest things that we did as a council was when Summit and New Providence were planning to merge with us as dispatching service for the police. We spent $25,000 to see if this was good for us, and it turned out it was not. That was the best $25,000 we ever spent. We went on our own, we put our new dispatch in, and it was definitely the right thing to do, and I believe everybody is happy that we didn't go with New Providence, and we have a much better dispatch service. It's more personal, and it is working better, and it's not costing us any more money, and that was one of the things we found out when we researched it. So we do many things to share service, but we do have to be careful of what might not work, and I believe we do a good job of checking to see what works and doesn't work. One thing that does work is our court system, which we share with New Providence, and I think that is still working, but we do keep an eye on that.
Shared service does not always equal savings. It was something the state came out and was trying to mandate that shared services to cut down costs. Unluckily, the state and counties have lost a lot of funding, and without their funding, some of the shared service models don't work anymore. Certain things are still being done by the town. I applaud it. I mean, from the street sweeper that we share with Long Hill to the shared court services, that's great. There is some cost savings, but not all shared services work. So, that's about it. I think something has to be looked at individually to make decisions.
Let's start this with Leo. What would you do to encourage more people to be involved in government by serving on volunteer committees?
It's hard to get people to do things. I think we have so many things in town that many people do volunteer for. I've been on the fire department 15 years. My family has been involved since 1928 when it was organized. But it doesn't have to just be that. It could be rescue squad, it could be all the committees that are involved in town. They do a lot. It saves the town money. You know, life is different now because people do have less time to give to the town. When they do, it's excellent, and it helps the town become a better town and saves us money.
Volunteer is something each individual person has to make a decision of when it's available and when they have time for it. I believe in it. I believe that people like Noah Jenko, who's running a volunteer ambulance squad, is doing a great job. About 15 members over there working with the ambulance squad. The fire department, also volunteer here in this town. is a very vibrant part of the community. Memorial Park, is putting up the statue. It's still short on funding, by the way, if you want to donate. It's still open for membership and help. It's things like that that drive the community. When I drive around, I stop off at different meetings or different affairs. I'm always amazed at the spirit and vibrancy of the people that are there. They're there, they bring new people in, and the next wave comes in and shares for the community services and volunteerism. And that goes from the Boy Scouts who come up and are planting out at the DFW wall right on down the line.
Yeah, I think, with the aspect of volunteering, people's lives are busy. We need to try and find time for this, and I think we need to create a little energy around that. And even some of the the circles that I run in town in terms of trying to just get people more involved. We're very obviously focused on families, and there's layers nowadays. But even the idea of just being more involved with what's going on in town in general. There are groups now talking about trying to create even these round robin situations of people actually attending and getting involved more with the town council meetings and things like that. I think we can actually apply that on the volunteer side as well. Obviously the committees that we can get involved with, from beautification downtown, which is an interesting one. There's definitely committees, and I think from the town council we can try and get more people involved. I'm hoping that I can sort of bring some of that to the town council as far as getting people to see what's happening and get a little bit more excited about what's going on. So I think there's obviously lots of opportunity for it. There's always need for it. It's a balance. We're trying to balance their lives and get back as well.
Are there any actions that the township can pursue to assist homeowners who may be subject to flooding? Rivers and streams question.
The township, I know right now, is aggressively cleaning out streams and rivers, using grant money from the county. The Passaic River has been cleaned. The town last year, instead of doing the bulk pickup, or 2 years ago, instead of doing bulk pickup, cleaning out the small streams to help alleviate some of the flooding. Most of that is being done on town level as well as local levels. And that's about all. There's nothing else that can be done short of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, just in terms of the Passaic River, which I think there'll be a larger project when the land gets a little bit more solid, rather than pushing out from large equipment. But that idea of cleaning out this Passaic River and some of the project that Manny was talking about, as far as cleaning up these streams where there isn't over, basically they get jammed up, the tree falls, water has to go elsewhere, it's not going through. We have a lot of small tributaries and things around it. The soil in general, as everybody knows, in Berkeley Heights isn't great. Lots of rocks, lots of clay, doesn't absorb too much. So you have to try and keep that water flowing. So I think right now the cleanup of these and paying attention to that, and doing the due diligence around making sure that they are clear, so the water can go through, is probably the focus right now.
Yeah.
Well, 5.5 years ago when I got on the council, that was one of the first things I did. I started walking streams and rivers and saw there was a problem, photographed it, made a report, and it took all these years for it to finally start getting cleaned up. Well, the streams were getting cleaned up over the last couple of years, but it took a long time to get it done, but it's being done, and it's something that's necessary. And although it's not going to stop flooding, it will help control it some. There's no way to totally stop it. It's just the nature of the beast. But at least if we didn't build in flood zones, that would be a flood. Even though there's DEP issues, people still can get permits to build in wetlands and flood zones, and I think that's horrible. And I still don't understand how it's possible, but they do. And that's something that harms the flooding problem more than anything. And other than that, just watching the sewer inlets, that's something that should be addressed. I know we don't have a good program to clear them, the leaves clog them up, and that also helps contribute to the problem. That's something we can do. Thank you.
All right, the last prepared question from the league, and we'll start with Peter. What is your most important priority for the township that you feel you could influence during the next 3 years?
Well, for me, again, I feel in the town there seems to be at times some divide in terms of groups. times it seems like the council meetings seem to be these attempted gotcha moments where people, it is a trust issue or something in the town. And I think some of that is people talk about transparency, people talk about access to information, and honestly, I think there probably is a lot of access to information, and there is lots of transparency. So again, I think it's reinforcing that when you have these conversations with people, they sort of take disparate pieces of information sometimes and it becomes something else. It becomes, maybe they create something that isn't actually true or it is. So I think part of it is just the positive energy in terms of the fact that, you know, there's aspects of this town that are different than other towns. And we need to start to try and pull people a little bit closer together, I think, as far as doing this. You can't do anything if there's a divide. If there's a divide, it doesn't move forward. So there's some positive aspects like that. For me as well, I continue to feel that the downtown area is something that we continue to focus on. We need a balance on this. I totally understand that we don't want to completely change it, but at the same time, I think we want to be aggressive. Nothing stays the same. Maybe a concept that people have in their mind. I hear people say, well, we want to change anything. It's not realistic. It's not common sense. I'm not saying to change everything. But if progress happens, you either manage it or it runs you over.
Yeah. What's your most priority that you think you can influence in the next 2 years?
Believe me, it's hard to influence things to get them done, but I've had some successes and I hope to have more. One is I would hope that we could not purchase the church property. I feel that we are not in the real estate business. We should not be buying the church property, which will probably contribute to the demise of the church. And I have a concern about that because the church is owned by most of the residents, many residents in this town. So that's one of my priorities. I wish we could not do that. Careful with overdevelopment because that does affect flooding, not a lot, but every piece you build will add to the flooding issue. And people may not see it, but it harms that and the streets a little bit overused, and our infrastructure cannot handle the school children and the amount of traffic. That's just too good to think of right now.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Berkeley Heights is a well-situated town, right on the edge of Union County, bordered by Somerset and Morris counties. We have a direct rail link to New York City. We have easy access to highways. And when I moved to Berkeley Heights, I came here for the school system, the quiet streets, and the small town feel. The work I see when I go to civic and social events with the residents makes me feel even more proud to make this my home. I'm elected, if elected, to work with the town council. It's my vision to help control costs, maintain small town pride and feel, and stay compliant with state and local regulations. Working together towards a common goal. Together is a platform Peter and I have chosen. Leadership is more than just showing up, it's being informed on events and change that happen daily. It's about attending community events and listening to residents' concerns. I believe in the people of Berkeley Heights. I support the safe streets initiative that's being worked on. And I also believe in maximizing the rail link in New York City, making the downtown area more attractive to local businesses as well as to the residents in the area. All that increases property values. I think that working in cooperation, we can all benefit. And keeping clear lines of communication between the residents, the town council, the business associates, it's critical. So what would I like to do? I'd like to maintain clear, open communication with everybody, work on grant monies, and maximizing the downtown for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, your turns. Now, please ask a question that's addressed to all three candidates, so that they all have a chance to ask. Anybody? Don't tell me the leaves covered out. Of course we have. Yes.
Very thorough.
So this is for all of them, right?
Right.
Okay, so can you describe your understanding of the role of the town council representative?
The role of the
Town council representative? What they believe as their role as town
as
council.
a member of the town, as a councilman. Okay. Ed?
Good question. I feel that I'm supposed to work for the residents, do what the residents would like. If we want to get technical, the town council is supposed to prepare the budget, and That's something we didn't need to do this year. We can also pass laws, which we do. And I guess I'm asked this question just because they always feel I overstep my bounds. I don't feel I do. Thank you.
The phrase that popped up the other day was democratic republic. As a member of town council, we work for the town, we work for the residents, and it's not always working for one resident, it's working for all the residents. It's looking at analyzing what's best for everybody. Sometimes you make everyone a win-win situation, that's the ultimate goal. Sometimes someone's not happy, but that's what discussions are for. I believe in keeping lines of communication open. I believe in the town, and I believe in working together and getting the job done. My job if I'm elected as a town council, is to work for you, to listen to your complaints and grievances, and hopefully direct them to the right departments. Because our job as a council is to work for you.
I mean, I think the primary is setting policy as the council, and in terms of reviewing things that are brought to the council. I think part of that is even in terms of bringing in the right experts on things. And you often hear comments from people that, it's great to have an opinion on something, but at the same time, what we're supposed to be doing is bringing in the right people that are experts in the state on something, that are experts on whatever the actual issue is, hearing what they have to say, interpreting it, and in the end, collectively coming to some conclusion, which often means compromise, by the way. And I think that's a big part of this as well. Standing and just, taking a stand for a personal reason and just, it sounds good in a movie or something. So I'm not saying that you have to just vote yes or vote no because everybody else does. But the point is that you need, at the end, you're supposed to actually understand that there may be a law that the council actually just is not able to affect. And it's not the council's decision to basically say, no, we don't want to have any affordable housing. It's just not something that is in the position of the town council. I think in the end, again, as Mary said as well, I think it's listening to people quite a bit. There's definitely different voices in this town, there's different perspectives in this town, and everybody surely can have them. But at the same time, there are also experts that help us influence in the end what the decision should be. I think that's the job.
Yes. So, the question is to everyone, you just mentioned it's not about voting yes or voting no, right? Getting back to the question of how would you from where you sit, how would your position on council be different than what the council would be doing without you? Right, so can you give an example of something that the council has done that you might have done something differently? Perhaps you'd be able to influence that, perhaps not. But where does your view differ from what's happening today?
I'm going to step on Peter's toes on this a little bit, but the pool, the VAC was voted on by the residents, almost an 80-20 ratio against the pool, and yet it was, and I'm against the pool. It was brought up as a position that the entire town took. Would I take a different position? No. So far, I'm watching what the town's doing. Picking something that I would disagree with so far, I haven't found anything. I think the town's working very well together as a force from changing the streetscapes, fighting unwanted development, working within the guidelines of the law, and working with affordable housing. So it's a hard question for me to answer because you're asking me to be a negative when I've got to be positive.
Peter? Well, I think, some of that as well is this, you asked in terms of the idea of voting no, voting yes, and positions that are taken. If your perspective, I guess, in general, is that you truly believe that nothing should change and everything should stay the same, I think you're actually starting in a position that's not logical. Because the reality is that things change every single day. The idea is to try and manage that change. I also find at times that if you start to just feel that you need to fight anything that's happening, become an obstructionist, become a contrarian. You start to wonder about the actual things you're voting yes or no. The BAC has been voting. Ed was the only person to vote no on the BAC. So I could never understand why in some capacity, when there were studies done and everything else, and it was laid out that in no capacity was anything of a benefit to the town. If anything, it could have hurt the town. Even all that was said, we went to a referendum, we had a vote in town, it cost a lot of money to do an election, and it was voted down by 11 districts. Most recently, we're seeing things that in terms of the senior community, which I would think that Ed favored. Yet we see this, we voted no with the senior center. I don't understand why, if this is a group that you support, this is a group that you want to keep in town, that's the vehicle to help do it. They asked for it, they got it, it's there, but you voted no against it. So I don't understand exactly the voting. It seems to be that you feel like maybe you're the only one that has to, you know, everybody can vote yes and everybody can vote no, you know, if there's a good idea.
First, I will defend myself on, I don't know what senior center I voted no on. If you went to meetings, maybe you might know the truth, I don't know, but since the BAC was brought up twice, I will stand my ground on this, even though it's such a long past issue, but the entire BAC, Stop the BAC issue was based on complete lies. Never once would putting chlorine in the system harm the sewer plant, which is why they claim that it was going to cost more. And if anything, having the VAC there would have gave us tax dollars. One of the issues with it was we can't have a commercial development outside of town in our sewer system. Within the last year, we did pass that. We have the sewer system from Camp Riverbend going into our sewers. That's a commercial development outside our township borders, and that was okay. So I still defend my decision because there was nothing that was correct on the Stop the BAC, keep your taxes low, vote no on it. And that's what the people believe, and it was a lie.
I just have one question. So that means 80% of the population will lie to, over 3,000 families in Berkeley Heights?
Okay, I moderated the league-sponsored debate on this issue, and I'm not going to do it again. I did that once. What?
It's also not the question.
No, but that's also not the question you asked, but it was a hot issue, and it obviously hasn't cooled down an awful lot. Okay. Is there another question from the audience? If not, we're going to move on to closing statements, so have a quick thought, yes.
You mentioned that Article 19 being passed, okay, about the downtown area. I'm here over 34 years in Berkeley Heights. Came in, it was a master plan, downtown was supposed to be 20-year work. That was the master plan, that was set for downtown. Through the years, through township, different changes in the township councils, you had a couple of mayors. Oh,
Is there a question?
yeah, there will be.
Okay.
Okay, there will be. Don't worry about that. That, let's make it look like New York. Okay? Why? What are you going to do in your position to make sure that the master plan is followed? That it's followed for the downtown.
So the colonial
That's what it was when I
versus
came
the new-
here.
versus
Well-
the new one.
Well, to your new one, to your new plan that everyone has come up with.
I think I come up with a plan. From what I understand from the plan, the idea is basically in terms of trying to create some unification. So as I mentioned, like the phrase I use is a bit of hodgepodge. There's different types of structures, there's different types of, there wasn't really a plan in place early on, I'm sure, in terms of the fact of what it looks like now. So whatever happened in the past, now I think we're looking forward to actually trying to rank it, trying to actually make it look unified. Again, to attract people to it, to make people more proud of it, and there's a balance on that. And, do I think it should look like New York City? No, I don't think it should look like New York City. I mean, we're not in New York City. I go there daily and I like coming back to Berkeley, so the fact that it doesn't look like New York City. But at the same time, I think it can look better. I think there are simple things that can be done in terms of new development that happens, that someone's just not building something that they want to do and saying, at least, you can't just say great. It sounds like the definition, it wasn't defined in terms of what was actually laid out, in terms of how it was laid out. So now we're actually looking at things in terms of paint color, maybe certain things that we can do, or suggestions to try and, again, unify the downtown, so it looks like it's one place within Berkeley Heights. But I'd offer that you look over here too.
Ed?
First, I think the term has always been, we want to look like Summit or we want to look like Westfield. And most of the residents that I talk to move here because they don't want Summit or Westfield, they want Berkeley Heights. They like the small town atmosphere. So for that, I think we should be more concerned about what's going on. Mr. Perone actually had it right at the last meeting. He said Berkeley Heights is so, downtown is so eclectic, it doesn't even go with itself. And I thought that was such a great comment, and I believe it's correct. One of the things is that over the years, people come in, they change things, and that's why it's like it is, because everybody has a different idea, and you got this one's ideas, that one's ideas, and if you look at all the buildings that have been put in for the last 20 years since, because according to Mr. Mistretta, what in Article 19 is in the, or is already there, and they've been using it for 20 years. And if you look at all those buildings that have been built over these last 20 years, I don't think one person would agree that any of them look good. Whether it's the one where Delia's Liquors used to be by the train station, or the one across from Noah's Bagels, or not exactly there, across from Son's Bakery. These buildings are horrible, so I think we need to address things a little more in the right direction. And the final, the bigger the company, the more they can get away with. And if you look, you can see that in most of the big buildings that are put up. They don't have to go with the variant, with what's in the codes.
I can't respond back to 34 years. But I can tell you that looking at the Article 19, it overwrites and replaces the older Article 19, which gave, the older Article 19 gave a general idea. The new Article 19 more defines the master plan. The older master plan didn't have any definition of numbers short of colonial design. If you look at the new Article 19, it breaks down a little bit more detail. And it's still a work in progress, like anything else that's being done. The first reading was just passed, the second reading was passed another 2 weeks ago. So the master plan didn't have enough detail. Article 19 tightens up that detail and now creates a better streetscape. And it's the hard work of the community that's doing that. That was the streetscape committee as well as the community development committee that all looked at that and helped rewrite the law, the rules. So I'm in favor for the new Article 19 just because it tightens up the guidelines. What will I do? I'll be enforcing whatever the laws are presented before me. If Article 19 is written that it's going to have a yellow warning in the front, and you, as people have the voice of it, have to change that warning, I have to enforce it. I don't like that. I like to do what's right, and it's all in there. So.
Yes.
Have you read the entire Article 19?
It's addressed to all three.
Yeah.
Okay.
You read the whole thing?
I haven't read it.
Starting with you, Ed, have you read the whole thing?
No, I received it about 4 days before the council meeting. I begged for it to be put on hold so we could take the time to read it, address it, make it better. There's so many things in there. And I believe Mr. Pastor also said he didn't finish reading it. And I don't think we should be passing things that we don't read and that we don't have any comment that we can't comment on since we didn't read it. And there's so many things in there that I really think need to be looked at that aren't in there or shouldn't be in there. So, no, I did not get to finish reading it yet.
I did read it. And like I said, it's still a work in progress. First reading was passed, and sometimes when you're on a committee, you have to take faith in what the committee work is doing. And the committee brought this forth before the whole town council for approval. The town council has a responsibility to read the rules, responsibility to read the guidelines. And if they have any changes, they have the responsibility to bring it forth to the committees as well as discuss it with the membership. Like I said, it's still a work in progress, but it's something that actually tightens up the guidelines on what the master plan did not have.
Yeah, I have not read the entire Article 19, but again, in terms of this idea of defining more definition, is from what I understand in terms of unification, in terms of creating some aspect that you aren't just deciding what it needs to do as a developer, in some capacity there is control along those lines. That's the way I understand it currently. I haven't had an opportunity to sit down with the whole thing.
Yeah, just a little bit, real quick. One of the things is that once we pass the first reading of it, it can't be changed without amending it and starting over. And that's why I wanted to put it on hold for a couple of weeks to try and get it right. Whatever's in there now, it's in there, whether it's read or not, and I don't know if the rest of the council read the entire thing, but it should not be, and let me just go back. The job of the council is to do this and to pass these laws, and I don't know how to pass a law without knowing whether it's good or bad.
Yes. Is this follow-up or?
Yeah. It's a different question over there.
Okay.
Mr. Billy, I do know with your background and past history of you running for office, this is a gentleman. What makes you feel that you're qualified to come to council?
This is to all of them, or just?
Yeah, they could all answer.
All right.
I feel qualified from the work I've done on the state level with the New Jersey Association of Realtors, as well as local boards. I'm a town resident. I believe in what the town is doing. I believe in the town infrastructure. I believe in staying here. And if I didn't believe in staying here, I wouldn't be running for town council. As the kids were getting older, I had less time. The kids were younger, I had less time. As the kids are older now, I have more time to devote towards town responsibilities. I've been doing real estate for 30 years. I feel I'm fairly successful at what I do. And whatever goals I tend to set, I tend to reach. And this is one of the goals I'd like to reach also, working on the town council on your behalf, working with the town council to get the job done, as well as improving towns, increasing property values, and keeping costs low.
Yeah, I'll admit that there's a lot to learn regarding the council. What I'm bringing to the council, I feel, are communication skills, and in terms of the problem solving that I'm involved with my career for 15 years, in terms of listening to people and actually trying to figure out ways to approach things. I enjoy making connections in terms of bringing people together. I think it's something that we could actually use. And as I found through a lot of the aspects when I was involved with the BAC, that a lot of the messages were actually incorrect in terms of what people thought was happening, what people thought they were signing. And I feel that a lot of times this is just basically common sense issues. If you break them down a little bit, it can help people actually understand them better. So I'm hoping, quite honestly, to bring a lot of that energy. I'm excited to get involved in terms of this. So I'm always a team player in terms of the way that I work with my teams with the organization. I've been with for 15 years. It's problem solving, it's different approaches to finding solutions, which I believe in a lot of ways is what a council should be doing. Again, with the community and the different groups within a community, trying to find ways to actually connect those groups, trying to find ways to find compromise. It's always compromise. It's never black, it's never white. It's always something in the middle. I think that we need to find more ways to do it. So that's why I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
I've been involved going to meetings for years before I got on the council. And I always felt I was qualified because I felt like I could bring something to the table that the rest of the council didn't have. One was a construction background, one was a vehicle background, and the other was a self-employed business owner for my entire life. And all of those things bring a different feel to the township, which I feel is very useful in many things. And I also know the people, I know the town, I know everything about the town that can possibly be known. I shouldn't say everything, but most things throughout my years of growing up here. And I think that's very important to be part of the council. And like being the only person on the council that's a lifelong resident, I think that's a big asset. And that I feel like I have the people's voice, and they tell me what they like and don't like, and I try to repeat it and stand up for what I feel is right.
I have to say, I've probably moderated 400
local candidates forums like this. And half the time, I get questions handed me from the audience on little paper cards, and I shuffle them madly to try to put them in an order that will make sense. And the question she just asked is always the question I put last before the closing statement. That's perfect. So I think we ought to go on and let them, unless there's something really pressing that hasn't been covered, I think we ought to let them go on and make their closing statements. Because I swear to heaven, that's the one I asked. What do you think? Why do you think you should be running? Thank you. All right, so you have 2 minutes, gentlemen, to sum up and explain again why you think you should be elected. We're going to start this with Ethel.
Thank you for the good segue. My goal has always been to stay in this town until the day I die, which hopefully will be a long time away. I know many of the seniors are also trying to do the same. We need a town that can grow carefully, which will allow us to afford retiring in Berkeley Heights. The majority of my life has been dedicated to making Berkeley Heights a better place to live. I take my position on the council very seriously and personally. I spend an exorbitant amount of time serving this township, which I am passionate and dedicated to. I have addressed many issues in the town that I feel are important, like clearing the safe river and streams, downtown parking issues, questioning the bill list, and addressing township debt. I want to thank the residents of Berkeley Heights for your support over the last 6 years of my council terms. I would love your support on June 7th so I can continue to work for you on the issues that affect us and our neighbors. Thank you.
We live in a great town. That does not just happen because we live here. It happens because we work together to keep it that way, now and in the years ahead. The future of our community is in our hands. We need to all get involved. Volunteering are the backbone of this town. We look at our rescue squad, fire department, various town committees, and all the nonprofits that make a difference in our lives. We need our tax dollars to support and maintain essential services. And we need the town council representatives working with residents, county, and state officials to find additional sources of revenue. Everything cannot be paid for by taxes alone. It's the job of the council to develop comprehensive plans for a solid future, to invite input from residents and the broader community in order to make good, solid decisions that reflect legal mandates while protecting residents' interests. We need the big picture, but we can't forget about the day-to-day. Pete and I are working to do the hard work and ask for your support on June 7th. It takes all of us working together to move forward and get the job done. You, the people of Berkeley Heights, are our greatest asset. Please vote Calme for proposal included on June 7th. Thank you for your support.
Peter?
So, a lot is happening in our community right now. I'm excited to put my skills, time, and energy into ensuring our town stays a vibrant, affordable place that supports local businesses and corporate neighbors that keep our small town feel. I think it's always a balance. Like all communities, we have financial challenges, maintaining our roads, infrastructure, services, supporting our police, fire department, DPW, rescue squad. Thank you to all of you. Having modern, safe, accessible municipal and recreational facilities, all important aspects of this community, and all take money. Critical to our future are well thought out, defined policies and planning that maximize every dollar. That means no shortcuts, not wasting a single cent. It means expanding efforts, working with residents, nonprofits, businesses, and corporations, and forming public and private partnerships to raise funds for town improvements and developments. And Memorial Park is an awesome example of that. It's going to be beautiful. Our volunteers, they have done remarkable work. We need to secure every grant dollar out there to support the town council members who are finding these new grant opportunities. It means bringing quality development that provides new ratables, collaborating with the Board of Education, New Jersey Transit, and other stakeholders to pursue funding together. And ultimately, it means being a good listener and welcoming input from every resident. We've been here for 20 years, 40 years, 5 years. And when we start to do that collective voice in town, maybe we start to understand why Berkeley Heights feels special and how the past always grows the future. Because it's only when we work together. It's when we get involved. People need to get involved. That's when you move forward. So thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate everybody's time, perspectives, input. I think this is really, at the end of the day, what it's all about. Please vote Colonnade for Rosso and Kudo on June 7th. And thanks again for coming. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.